Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the August 1st meeting of the Parks and Rec Commission. Will the staff secretary please call the roll?
Commissioner Alexander?
Here.
Commissioner Bridge?
Here.
Commissioner Esparza?
Here.
Commissioner Pollock-Cushing?
Here.
Commissioner Suchek?
Here.
Commissioner Stearns?
Here.
Commissioner Panchal?
Here.
All right. Thank you. Commissioner Alexander, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight?
Be glad to. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Item 4 on tonight's agenda, we will now open the public comment period. Would you please read the procedures for addressing the commission tonight?
Speakers have 3 minutes under public comment to speak on issues that are not listed on the agenda and are within the city's jurisdiction. The Brown Act does not permit any action or discussion on items not listed on the agenda.
All right. Is there anyone here wishing to address the commission? Seeing none, we will close the public comment period. All right. Agenda item 5.1, approval of the previous meeting's minutes. Tonight we are soliciting approval for the meeting minutes of May 2nd and June 6th meetings. Is there a motion to approve?
Sure. I move to approve the May 2nd and June 6th minutes.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Just for discussion, I was absent on May 2nd, so I just want to state that for the record.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So moved. All right, to the meat of the matter tonight. Agenda item 6.1. Director Geller is here to make a presentation.
Yes, I'm going to step up to the podium and ask Andre Randolph to come up here and join me, please. Thank you for being here tonight. Don't peek, I've got something for you. So, on behalf of to recognize Andre for his service as a Parks and Rec Commissioner. Andre began his term in January of 2015. After his first 4-year term, he was reappointed to a second term, but in July, Andre was appointed to the Planning Commission, which precludes him from continuing his service on the Parks and Recreation Commission because residents can't serve on 2 commissions simultaneously. He has always been engaged in our meetings. He's asked great questions. He's attended our events, everything that we hope from a commissioner, and you've made our department better. So thank you for that. During his term, Andre was involved in the approval process for many improvements to our parks and our facilities. You may not know this. When you joined the commission, Roseville had 66 parks. So you've watched our park system grow by 20% during your tenure. So how many park openings has Andre been a part of? Anybody do the math?
Same amount as Roy.
14. 14. Yeah, because we now have 80 parks in our system. So to be exact, I'll tell you what parks those were.
When did you do that?
Where was I, right? Waltrip Park, Fidament, Kennedy, Stizzo, Boss, Sierra Crossing, Astle Family, Lucan, Phillips, Rakucci, Pistachio, Sullivan, Gray, and North Hayden.
Wow.
That's a lot of parks that you've been involved in. He's also worked with 3 PRL directors during his tenure, Dom Casey, Dion Louthan, and I'm glad that you stayed on long enough that I got the opportunity to work with you as well. So I know the other commissioners will have comments, but I do want to take an opportunity to present this to you as well, which says presented to Andre Randolph, in appreciation of your dedicated service to the City of Roseville Parks and Recreation Commission, and it has pictures of many of the parks that he got to be a part of. Oh. So Andre, thank you very much for your service. We appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. think before it goes back, I just want to thank everybody that I had the opportunity to work with. It has been a huge pleasure of mine. I come from a family of service, from my dad, who Air Force man, to being my coach growing up as a kid, my mother, who would coach me, be my mother, be the mother to my friends, cook pre-football game dinners before our football games at Roseville High. And my lovely lady here, who still serves this community as a registered nurse, so I come from service. My kids, they're all grown and off, but they also are of service from being youth coaches and, participating all throughout. So this means a lot to me. I love Parks and Rec. I wish this could be continuous. I wish I could have a resume like Nick. But with that, I would be lost not serving. So yes, I am with the Planning Commission, looking forward to the exciting work that's there. I think it's a great synergy that bridges what we do in Parks and Recs and what we do with the master plan for the city. So I would like to thank everybody, and I appreciate my time serving. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Please, hold on. At the end of my previous term, Andre sat right here, and he just now is leaving right here. I think we need a cardboard cutout of Andre to keep me company. Otherwise, I'm all alone. But anyway, Andre, it was a pleasure serving with you. And Andre and I are both football coaches, so in the time that we have to kill, we draw plays.
We draw plays. That's a fact. And thanks to Nick, that's how Wood Creek beat Folsom High.
It was a pleasure. I'll probably be seeing you at the Planning Commission one of these times.
Yes, sir, you will.
All right.
All right.
Anyone
Thank
else?
you.
Yeah, I'd just quickly like to add, too, coming on to the commission, too, I think you and I served on the Youth Sports Coalition together, and then following your footsteps in leadership here as well. So it was it's nice to watch someone experience as yourself run it first, so I can kind of see how it goes. So I appreciate you for that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And I'll say,
I remember Andre always had a good question at just about every meeting and event. Good enough that I would kind of look to my left and go, boy, I wish I'd have thought of that. We're here for. So that was good. You were a very good servant of this Parks and Recreation Commission. We hate to see you go. Who can I call on the Planning Commission and have your appointment rescinded?
Yeah, Andre, it was a pleasure serving with you. Best of luck on I know you'll do great with the Planning Commission.
I appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Andre, I mean, you've been sitting next to me since I started a year and a half ago, and you were always just a real comforting person to have next to me and kind of pumping me up, like, you can do it. I think you're the one that nominated me for vice chair.
That's
like
fact.
You really you were there for me. That's how I learned the whole year, by watching you and learning from your questions and your input. So thank you so much for getting me to the point where I'm comfortable being here, and I'm just one of the team now. And thank you for continuing to serve just on a different commission. We'll miss you, though.
Thank you for that. Thank you. And, all the way from staff, Mike, fantastic, keeping us out of trouble, right? Tara, everybody knows Tara and the success that she has brought to this place. I'm going to miss, always doing this. Tara, let me see them nails. Always the best nails in the business. So, it's the little things that also mean a lot, where it makes you a family in this room. So, yeah, I am going to miss that, and I'm appreciative for that. So thank you all.
Yeah. Thank you for your service.
My pleasure.
We look forward to seeing you back on the screen here.
Aye.
Yeah.
Watch this. Now it's twice a month.
Thank you, Andre.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
And Randolph family, thank you very much. You've raised a good one.
All right. Item 6.2, Strategic Master Plan Update by Tara.
Well, good evening. Tara G., your Park Planning and Development Superintendent. Tonight we're here to ask you to approve the PRL Strategic Master Plan and to forward it on to the City Council for formal approval. With us tonight, and flew in fresh off the plane, is Leon Younger from Pros Consulting, and I'm going to hand this over to Leon to make the presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Sarah. Well, I appreciate a lot of you I've interviewed before, so it's kind of nice to see you again, kind of share with you kind of where we are. You get tonight, it's more of the high-level overview of key recommendations and that came out of the planning process. As you know, we've been doing this for about a year. And the process involved a lot of public engagement throughout the process at different stages, you know, within the focus group meetings and stakeholder interviews, as well as we did 2 surveys within the community, as well as we had 3 public forums. So we got information back, we shared information, and you were a part of it. So as I walk you through this, it just kind of starts with the purpose. You know, the goal of doing a plan like this is to really provide guidance and a kind of a roadmap of how you want to really focus on land, recreation facilities, recreation programs. How do you want to manage the operations and management of the maintenance and just the overall services that you provide, as well as how you want to build and actually maintain what you already own. So it's really a process that the plan addresses all of those elements. And it's not really a complete plan unless all of them are in there. So every aspect of the park system is included in this, including staffing requirements and issues that are associated with keeping up with what you already build and how to maintain it properly. So that's the major overall purpose of doing a plan like this. The other thing it really gives not only all of you a checklist to really kind of work with the staff on where are we on these elements of the plan, and so you can constantly see and check off the things that your public are expecting of you and how well the staff is being able to respond to it. You've been a growing community for a long time and still growing. But you still have other parks and areas that need to be updated that are really in their second life, and part of this plan was really not only to look at new, but also what are those elements that really need to continue to be updated and to really make the entire system feel like it's all connected and it all works well together. So that was kind of our overall purpose of the plan. The next thing was really looking at, here are all the pieces of the plan. So we did a facility review. We did a benchmark assessment of other communities similar to yours. We did a full SWOT analysis, program assessment, and we looked at your levels of services in comparison not only to the people that we benchmarked against, but also from an NRPA perspective and best practices. And really, we looked at NRPA from the highest level of service that is at the upper quartile level, which that's how people view you as well as your community, and we wanted to position you really at the best. And then just the whole stakeholder process, and also really focusing on what's an unmet need, what people really felt like needed to be addressed in the future, as well as how we're going to fund the system for the future, and then building a full vision, mission, operations, and strategies that go along with it, and a full action plan. So this was what the process included as we went through it. So you have a new brand, and I really love the brand. I think it's really, it says who you are. And a lot of agencies are really looking at Roseville based on how well they've done this brand, as well as how well they work together with libraries. And so I think you'll see more and more people at least considering this as a joint effort based on your work. The first vision really is that the staff is really about being a leader and creating a healthy community through progressive, sustainable, and memorable experiences. And I think when you create a vision, it really says this is what you want to be known for. And when you look at the organization today, is that who you see? And part of the plan is to constantly make sure that the plan addresses that vision and is presenting that in the way they think and operate and manage themselves. when you talk about mission, it says, well, how do we get there? So they want to enhance lives and the community by providing exceptional experiences. And really the experience side of this thing is not just if you're involved in a program, but it's really about self-directed experiences and the important element of providing those opportunities that don't require somebody to sign up for something, but they're able to experience the park system in their own way at their own pace and be able to enjoy it. So those are the mission and vision, which I know that you know because you probably approved it as part of your work being on this commission. So this is a 10-year plan. It really wants to elevate the park system and into 9 strategic initiatives. And so when we think about those initiatives, we're not only thinking about them as a whole from a standpoint of vision, mission, what the values of the system are, but also strategic initiatives that focus on goals, and those goals are outlined in the plan, as well as how do we get there through objectives and tactics. And both of those are requirements that really we're looking this at as a 10-year plan with 5 years, very intense 5 years. Now, all of that takes money, and we recognize that money is always the issue that comes along with any of these plans. But the important element of it is that a lot of the work that's already in this plan has been funded through different mechanisms the city already has in place. It's really about advancing some of the major elements of the plan forward. So as we move forward with this, you recognize that the park system has some strategic initiatives, and all of these, I know that you've seen these before, but each one of these are how the department wants to be viewed in the community as being a healthy and supporting a healthy, livable community. They want to create opportunities for recreation that motivate people to want to live here, but also create memories. They want an exceptional parks and facilities. They want the open spaces that you do have to be recognized and used, as well as how do you incorporate libraries and the history of the city into the park system. Obviously, they want to be a high-performing organization, and they want to demonstrate fiscal responsibility. So all of these initiatives are things that we took into account as we were building the plan to make sure that none of that gets left out. So those initiatives are kind of outlined here, and I'm not going to read them all, but the intent is that these are strategies that the staff basically built, and we use those in this process. We didn't try to change them. We tried to basically make sure that those initiatives are overlaid in all of our thinking. And so as we built those and built the plan, those are the things that kept rising in front of us of how we were going to basically address the recommendations in the plan. So as you can see, all of these are things that they strive to do in terms of public engagement and how they plan, how they look at perform as a high-performing organization, and also about fiscal responsibility. So I know you've seen this before, so I'm not going to go into that. The next piece is really the key takeaways from this plan. So the first takeaway is to develop a signature sports complex. It's on the table right now. It's one of the things that the staff is advancing. Even tonight, you're having a discussion about that process. It was something that's been brought up and discussed many times, and in the plan we did a economic impact assessment of this on the city, which is pretty strong. And there's a real opportunity to really advance sports in this community at a much higher level from an economic perspective. Mm-hmm. The second thing is to develop a new community center, aquatic library complex that really for the West End, it's really been discussed and rediscussed, but it's in the plan and it really needs to be addressed. And because you're growing in that area so quickly, people's expectations are high that those facilities follow that living in that area of the city. Another big element that came up through this process, a big takeaway, was updating older parks. And a lot of people brought forward in the community process parks that need to be enhanced or remodeled or updated or changed out. And but I think people recognize that the park system is kind of like in 2 or 3 phases. So we have the older parks, and we have kind of the parks that were built in the last 25 years, and then we have all the new stuff that's going on. And so the ability to make them all feel like they're connected and as one, and they all receive equal level of attention is something that people brought forward, and we really wanted to build that in as a major strategy in this plan. Another thing that was brought up was a connected trail system, and this follows a national trend. People love a connected trail system where you don't feel like your kids have to get out on the street to ride their bikes or actually to move freely through the community. They can do it through a connected trail system. And a connected trail system is like a park system into itself because it basically operates and thinks and manages so this level of connectivity. And actually be able to build that into the system over the next 20 years, 10 years will be terrific, and you're well on your way. And I know that Public Works and the park system work well together in this process, but it's something that the community recognizes, but it follows a national trend. One of the things that also big was people wanted, and maybe coming out of COVID was something that really brought a lot of attention to it, was being able to have more access to your natural areas and the ability to open up trails in those areas. People wanted to get out and they wanted to be able to have more access to that. And so in this process, that became a major element of a recommendation is how do we open, how much should we open, and what is it required in terms of design to make people feel safe, but also that it addresses their needs. Also to look at continue to build a sustainable funding system. You guys have had a long history of being a well-managed system for the last as long as I've known you, which has been like 35 years or so when Mike was here and other the folks, Dom and Dion and Jill. And, when you have that kind of sustainable and leadership in the system, people know who you are. And in the process of doing it, having a sustainable funding practices in place, you've always done that. You've always approached things from a very economic and a very thoughtful manner in terms of financing the system for the future. But even now, well, we brought forward some other options for funding that you haven't done that we think would really be advantageous for the future. Also, we wanted to really look at sustainable funding, but also what are the things that really, the park system went through kind of a stress period, maybe 5, 10 years ago during that time period. But it seems that time period has passed, and there's an opportunity now to help really strengthen some of the things that need to be updated, as well as the things that the public is asking for. So we want to make sure that that's there. The park system has struggled in some of its hiring, an ability to have the right people in the right job. And through this process, there was a full organizational assessment done and certain positions that were needed to basically carry on the direction of the system and really pick up some of the pieces that needed to be picked up to make the system as strong as it can be. So staffing levels were addressed as well, and positions were outlined in that plan. Additionally, we looked at some additional core programs that the park system hasn't provided, but we wanted to be expanded based on what the community told us. And those programs and core services were outlined. And we're not just saying we're dropping those in that they have to be done tomorrow. The ability to pick out a core service, 1 or 2 a year, to pick up some of those, especially areas that the community felt like were missing. And so those were outlined in the plan. And then just again, takeaways, maintain, upgrade, and reimagine spaces. And every park system, even though parks are here in perpetuity, all amenities go through a life cycle. And in that process of a life cycle is, do we just put it back like it was, or we update it and make it stronger, better, wider, stronger in terms of appeal to different types of users? That was really brought up as a major theme. Technology, not only within the system, but also within the library system. really was a major element that the staff and the community felt like would benefit the library stronger, was having a good up-to-date technology plan. And then the whole idea is people love to be engaged with this park system and they want more of it. So when you ask people, are we doing the right things and are we doing them right, people want to continue to tell you that. So once you invite them into this process, they want to continue to be in. So the idea of doing surveys every 3 years and having more public engagement and constantly asking people about how they feel about the system is something that people desired that would continue as we move forward. So those are some of the big takeaways, and so the goals that we outlined here are to provide parks, trails, and open spaces that are designed to address diversity of needs and to be the leader. And Roseville's always been a leader in California for sure, but I think even through this process we'll make it stronger if not only you all embrace it, but also the council, and I think that you'll get there for sure. So as we move forward with these key recommendations, I've already went through those in terms of continue to maintain safe, clean parks, develop new parks and update older parks, work with city partners to create more connected system, looking at trails, updating master plan sites to work for the future, so all of your parks feel like that they've had the level of attention is where we want to encourage you to look. Conduct regular park assessments to ensure high quality. Everybody has this feeling that they're doing the right thing, but sometimes having an outside opinion and having different people look at it from different perspectives really opens up everybody's mind about why do we do what we do and how can we make it better. So in doing that, we recognize that. And the goals then, looking at the public facilities that are designed to address the diverse needs, I think the park system has done a great job in that. I love the perspective of what you've done between libraries and community centers being jointly created and developed. You only see that in 2 different states, and that's mainly you see it in Arizona and you see it in Florida. And those are the only 2 states, so it's nice to see it actually here and how well it's worked, and certainly people appreciate it. So we want to provide facilities that are designed basically to address all what the community's needs are. So larger part of that incorporates a feasibility study for a large community and aquatic center. I've talked about West Roseville, but part of that is you need to do something in advance so that it's really embraces what people are looking for, but also what you can afford. And then obviously investing in a multi-sports complexes, which we've already addressed. And adding some new amenities that you don't really have too much in your system, but are kind of on the front edge of what people are looking for in terms of pickleball courts, skate parks, and a mountain bike course. And we've identified places for those in the plan, as well as continue to look at sports tourism as an opportunity. Again, reinvesting in your facilities. The Adventure Club is one of your biggest programs, as how to deal with it, because it's a difficult program to operate and manage. But how do you manage that in the context, especially so many people count on you? It's your biggest program you have, but it's one of the most difficult ones to manage. It's not easy because of the way the state sets up the certification programs and licensing of these facilities. And so that's going to be something that's going to need a lot more review, but it's outlined in the plan what to do about that. And then looking at just the whole idea of aging infrastructure. I know some of you play golf and you've recognized that some of the clubhouses need to be updated, as well as different elements of the golf courses, and you've always taken care of that. So as we move forward in the next pieces, then really looking at programs, and we're trying to look at expanding programs and looking at new pricing strategies, expanding partnerships that you have, and reinventing certain programs. All programs go through a life cycle, and in the process of doing that need to be addressed, and we did address those in terms of what types of programs that the community would want most. So in doing that, we're addressing all of the various elements of programming from the standpoint of delivery of service, pricing, how you do your partnership agreements. You've got a lot of partnership agreements, and a lot of those constantly need to be reviewed so that you don't encourage a certain level of entitlement or certain people take advantage of you. So part of that was addressed in this plan. Also to look at how we could incorporate annual feedback from the community on your programs so that they keep them fresh and updated. And then looking at the business structure of youth development, because there's a lot that goes into that, and it's a very challenging process. And then looking at the operations of staffing, I just mentioned that the staffing, there's some key positions that are missing, but we've identified those in the plan, and all of those would help manage the system better. Not that it isn't managed now, but everybody knows where the weaknesses are inside the organization, and we've identified that through this process. Managing the outcomes is part of any type of a plan like this. So we've created a set of outcomes, performance indicators. Some people don't like to be managed by that, but you have a staff who's willing to do that. And when you're managed by outcomes, it's their report card on a yearly basis, how well they're doing against those outcomes. So it's very highly accountable. And then looking at other kind of policy pieces, we've looked at all of the policies that you had to make sure that if they needed to be updated, how we would address that, as well as an ongoing process of professional growth. The park system here has always been a leader in professional growth and also in a leader in CPRS in delivering the program services and teaching people kind of the Roseville way. But also the staff that's here now, you have a lot of new people as well that need the continual effort of ongoing development so that they always can position themselves and the community in the best light. So, and then really just kind of making sure that the organization, all of its efficiencies are in place. And when you do a plan like that, it's not just about land and facilities and programs and services. It's all the inside of how the organization thinks and operates and how it manages itself efficiently. And so part of that looked at IT, financing, looked at your operations, how all of the policies issues, and how to create the best balanced park system possible. The best park system in the country are the ones that are most balanced, where you might have, a park system has 10 or 12 different pieces that really make it work, but you might have 2 or 3 that aren't balanced, and it messes the whole system up, and it's hard to do that. And your system really strives to be the best in all those areas, and we identified where that could be stronger in the plan. And then financing-wise, just additional funding sources. I think that I've mentioned earlier that those are things that need to be addressed, and we did identify those, as well as opportunity dollars for capital, because capital is going to be, you have a big appetite here. People's expectations are really high of the park system, and it takes a lot of money to operate it and develop it. And you've had some real strong funding sources in place for a long time, but like anything, all of this life cycle, you build it and you got to maintain it. And to do that, we have to have dollars to do that, and we've identified that in the plan. And then just one of the things that was really picked up in the plan was the historic sites and the Minute community site and really the historic area. I love the perspective of the way the library system basically has kind of embraced that as part of their development. And so we, in the plan, identified how the library system and MIDO can actually work collectively together, which I think is really a positive, as well as just growing the whole cultural experience in the community with some of the other sites that you've all identified in the past. But part of that is to do a great interpretive plan for the MIDO Museum as well as other historic sites, as well as making sure that the organization really cultivates those relationships with the organizations involved and really kind of builds. A lot of people say, why do we have this if we don't use it? Why do we have something that's been there for 20 years and we can't develop it? So part of that was to address the 20 years that nothing's happened. How do we deal with it now? So that's part of it. The library system, obviously is one of the pieces that have come along with this plan. And we had a really good consultant work with us on that as well. And I felt like that I felt really good about how the library program and the park system gelled together in this plan, and how they can actually interface with each other stronger through the kind of partnerships that are involved. And quite frankly, the library system is going to only get stronger because the cross-marketing between the Parks and Recreation and libraries is only going to get better. And having that ability will make both better. And you've got a good library team of people who are managing that side of the house, and they know what they're doing. So I think incorporating this more stronger in the plan will be good, as well as looking at the Fitment House as another opportunity, and looking at cultural arts. One of the things that Jill's really good at, and her background is in cultural arts, and being able to bring a whole cultural arts element into this plan was something we looked at pretty strongly. And so with that, those are the kind of key recommendations for libraries and culture. If you go to the capital side of this, you're going to look at, say, okay, here's what we have. We've looked at life cycle maintenance, taking care of what you already own. There's about $64 million just in updates. And then we're projected funding there is already about $10 million. So the delta there is we've got to look for those, be able to pick up that $54 million to keep all of your facilities where they need to be. And then not only that, looking at renovation and enhancement. So when we think about taking care of what you already own, what can we do to enhance something to make it stronger, to give more opportunities and the same space to make it better? So we identified that as well. And then future projects are some of the bigger ticket items that are listed, like the sports complexes and the community centers and the facilities that new libraries. Those things all are projected. Some of those are already funded, but we're still short some dollars there. So in presenting this, we recognize that the money isn't all identified, but there's a good start on it. And I think the big thing is if other funding sources that do get considered in the next slide actually could really make a big difference in being able to fund the entire system for the future. And I think as a commission, it's always a challenge when everybody wants everything. And I mean, every town is this way. I mean, every time I do this, everybody shows up and they all say, we want it all. Well, it's hard to do it all, but everybody's got to work together. If everybody works together, you do get there. It just takes time and a lot of patience and a good thinking. So these revenue strategies are outlined pretty well in the plan about how that could actually happen, as well as looking at other ways to update the developer impact fees, looking at hotel tax as part of it. Consider a citywide parcel tax to cover some of the stuff that really on the landscape improvements. So not just where the CFDs are, but where the landscape districts are, but really the whole town feels like it's all looks that way, not just portions of it. And then also considering looking at a conservancy to actually develop the Al Johnson Wildlife Area, and it's set up perfectly for a conservancy, and it would be something I would really encourage you to consider, because that would really make that, that's a very large space, and it could really, really be very powerful. So anyway, I know I jambled on here, but I just wanted to let you know that I enjoy doing this project for you. I'll take any questions you have.
All right. You want to start it off, Nick?
I'll kick it off. First of all, Leon, masterful job. Mm-hmm. Masterful job, as usual. I mean, that's what we expect out of you. So anyway, but I would be enthused about sports tourism, as people know. Your hometown of Indianapolis does that the best, yeah. And I'd like to see how we can evolve into that one way or the other. Now, with regard to, and again, this is strategic only because I have a few years of experience on either side of Baseline Road. I'm assuming that the new center, the new aquatic center, is going to be on the 50-acre piece at the very west end of town.
We haven't quite identified a location.
What I'm saying is 50 acres, so it kind of points to that direction. Now, again, this is very strategic down the line. If we do a center out there, on the other side, on the south side of Baseline Road in the county, there's 14,000 units down there. And one way or another, they're going to use our facilities. So I'm just maybe putting the challenge out there to see if we can partner with a county on a facility that they don't have the wherewithal to build. But
We have talked about that.
Yeah.
It did come up in our conversations about how we could partner with the county.
And secondly, for that park and recreation needs in that south area south of Baseline Road, I just don't see how they can do it efficiently from Auburn. I think we could do it far more efficiently and probably save them some money doing it and having a good bang for the buck for both sides of the street. But like I say, with 14,000 units down there, they're going to be using our facilities. So we got to try and figure out how to capture that opportunity. That's all I have.
Okay.
Sandra, did you?
No, my concern has been that all this is happening in West Park, and that the residents are just, the current residents are just a little concerned with the traffic and the different people that are going to be coming and going and leaving our community, especially with, we have the 3 schools kind of in a line, and all the kids are, coming out of school at the same time. I don't want to from Long Island originally, so I'm used to traffic and strip malls over and over and over again. And I don't see how the roads are going to handle that much traffic going down Pleasant Grove. Pleasant Grove was built for what it is now. I'm just concerned about, how is all this construction going to be going on at once in West Park and, for years and years and years. And it's going to make it just a very different experience for families, which is basically what that area is mostly just families and young kids. I'm a little concerned with it becoming like a tourist destination. So what are the... I know it's, we want more money coming in and, want to bring in the tourism and everything, but, there's just a concern for major changes happening with current residents who move there for maybe a reason to have a quieter, life, but still be in Roseville. And so that's all I have. It's just,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Bridge?
Nothing I can think of at the moment. Thank you. Nothing for me.
A couple of things. I think the first thing that I just want to say is for the entire time that I've lived in Roseville, and more recently, I've noted we already have a superb park system. I think this plan moves us above that and keeps us going. Because when I was at state parks, we often said that Roseville is one of the communities that is the gold standard of local parks in California. I don't know about across the nation, but it's certainly in California, because we saw a lot of local parks at that level. I'm glad that the Al Johnson Wildlife Area is on tap, and I think the Conservancy is a great idea. When I was at state parks, we had a number of conservancies doing work for us. They had people and resources and talent that they could dedicate to areas like that, and loved it. So I think that's a good idea. Sports tourism, I love that. In several places I saw we want to enhance information and communications and marketing. Do we have a marketing person or a PR person in parks?
We do. We have 2 full-time staff. We have a PIO, and then we have a marketing analyst that helps with some of our social media. We have a part-time person that does some of our graphic design. But for the size of park and recreation and library system we don't have a very large marketing department within our department.
That's good. And you just reminded me that when my daughter worked for the Parks Department here, she was in marketing.
Yes, I know that.
About that for a minute.
I know that.
And I like the enhance the staff personnel and professional growth. I think that's important because if you can find ways that people see a ladder to climb and ways to make themselves better and stay with the park system will get better as they get better.
Yep.
That's all I
Sure.
have. The plan is superb. I love it. It's a great yardstick, a great path to follow.
First of all, I just want to say that it's really exciting that we have like this amazing plan, and it's just going to be amazing seeing, like, for me, like, all these kids are just going to be out there and they're going to have so much fun. But I have 2 questions. So, like, first of all, for the nature trails, like, are we going to do something to conserve, like, all that nature? Because I know, like, there's a lot of people who are going to go out there and, like, litter and, like, ruin. So what plans do we have for that?
Well, we haven't designed it, but typically in nature trails, the way it was set up, I think in the plan, we looked at maybe opening up 15 to 20% of the natural areas to actually for people to actually get on a trail and actually experience some of the natural areas. That doesn't mean it's the entire trail system, it's just a portion of it. And part of it would have to really be designed based on where parking and access and visibility need to be, but it isn't laid out in the plan, it's a recommendation, because people really felt like that they'd like to have more opportunities to enjoy that, and it really came more out of the pandemic.
And Tenby, I might add to that, if we're looking at our natural areas and you see these big open spaces we have, one of the thoughts is just to have a natural trail. It's just a dirt trail that maybe wanders through it, not in any of the preserve areas, not in any areas that, are endangered, so to speak, but actually allow our residents to experience the open space that we have. But your point about trash and abusing that is very well taken. So we would have our trail staff that are monitoring that to make sure that that's well taken care of.
Okay, and yeah, I had a second question also about trails, about the connective trails. So what are we going to do? I don't know if this is like really a question, but I was wondering about the safety of those connective trails, because I've heard of a lot of cases where people are going through these connective trails to schools and stuff like that. And there's like a lot of, like, I don't know how safe that would be, because nobody can see. Like, if you're on the open road, I know, like, it's not safe for a car, like, accident-wise, but people can see if something's happening to you. And in trails, connective trails, you're just, like, hidden. If something's happening to you, you're all alone, right? So I just was wondering what we would do for that.
Well, most of the connected trail systems are through either a combination of side paths, okay, which are not, that's like 3 times as wide as a sidewalk, okay, or they're actually through parks. So parks are the connection. Parks, and coming out of development, there's pathways out of developments to parks, and parks creates the network. So when the school districts have safe route to schools, that's one way of building a connected system, because the feds pay basically 100% of that. And then when you get into the park system side of it, it's really matching up how neighborhoods come out of their neighborhoods into different spine trails that run through the city. And those spine trails really are typically through pretty populated areas. They're not really areas that are that I would call low volume type of use. So you have a lot of visibility.
Okay, yeah, that's all I have.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for the presentation. It's like Commissioner Alexander said, it very impressive. What it covered and all the research and the data collecting that you did to kind of get to this point. I think really the key to making all this happen is how do we fund it, right? Not only for the initial improvements, but how do we fund it for its life, and to make sure that we can actually maintain what we build. So look forward to seeing all of this develop.
Well, you have a great team here, and it was fun putting this together. Not just we worked weekly for a year, lots of meetings, lots of discussions, and all of the staff contributed a lot to the effort. It was a team effort. I just wanted to say that you got a great team here.
Excellent. So if there's no more commissioner comments, we'll open this up to the public. Is there any public comments? Anybody here like to address the commission? No? Seeing none, then I think our next step is we need to open this up for a vote. So do we have a motion to approve the PRL Strategic Master Plan and forward it on to the City Council for formal approval?
So moved.
Second.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passed. Thank you. All right. Next item up on the agenda, item 6.3. Once again, a presentation by Tara G. on the Regional Soccer Complex Project Update.
Good evening, Tara G. here with your Park Planning and Development Superintendent. This item seeks the Commission's approval of the proposed master plan for the Longfield Sports Complex. This is a 51-acre site located off of Westbrook Drive and Brookstone in West Roseville. The wastewater treatment plant is located on the east, city property is on the north, and a commercial storage facility is being planned directly to the south. The proposed master plan shows 10 lighted soccer fields, a main pedestrian spine with shade, canopies, and misting system, 2 parking lots equaling about 95 spaces per field, 2 plazas with restrooms, shaded picnic areas, space for concession and officials area, a universally accessible playground, a looped pathway, and a corporation yard. For the north parking lot, or the one on the left of the screen here, the entrance is off of Westbrook Drive at the bottom of the graphic, and egress would be either on Westbrook Drive or the former Phillips Road, which goes straight up to the north. Thank you for that, pointing that out. The fields will be fenced, however, the playground and loop trail will not be fenced, making these amenities available to the general public. It is intended that the fields will be rented fields. So here are some early conceptual sketches. This one is the field area, and it shows both the larger field, where the sidelines are parallel to the central pathway you see with the little blue tents next to it. And the sketch shows also short fields. The short fields are going up and down on the top to the bottom of the screen. So it shows that we can play 2 different types of soccer if we chose to. And the players on this one is playing the long field. Our field sizes are 120 by 70 yards. That's the big one. And spectator areas will be about 20 feet. The player area is provided about 22 feet, and the short fields are 45 by 65 yards. This sketch shows the short field and how that orientation might work, given the setup. The players and scorekeepers are indicated under the white tents, and the parents and spectators are on the opposite side. We always want to try to keep that as an opposite. I mentioned misting systems along the main walkway. We will also be looking at misting systems for the players as well. As we move through construction documents, these details will be further refined. For the main pedestrian spine, here's an early image of that area. The sketch shows how the shaded canopies would look in relation to the fields, as well as how we might look at wayfinding throughout the project. Wayfinding is definitely an area where we are continuing to refine the look and the feel of being able to locate which field you're going to play on and which field, where the closest parking lots are. The plaza area here may look something like this. On the left is a restroom, a covered area where we might consider placing portables, or should we have a large tournament, we could also create what we're calling a kids zone, and that's a concept actually that we're introducing here. So the large building on the left of the slide, you see little blue on the next shaded area. And so in refinement, in talking with the team here at the department, we're really contemplating making that a kids zone. So it'd be covered, it would have different games. So if the parents, or if you have a break between games, you can go and entertain the children while we're waiting for the next game. The shaded areas behind it are picnic areas. And to the right of the screen, you see another building in the foreground, and that is contemplated to be an officials room, as well as, what else were you going to put in? Concession. And behind that are areas where food trucks can come and drive up and serve during a tournament. I mentioned the universally accessible playground, and so this is just an early bubble diagram on what it might look like. It may have different zones focused on different sensories and different ages. We plan to construct the universally accessible playground, which will be open again to the general public. We've held 2 public workshops, one virtual and one in person. We've received good feedback. While the refinement of the playground will not affect the overall master plan, I wanted to share that the refinement of this important component is still ongoing. The approach is to take advantage of the only grade contours on site, which is where this area is, and create play features that are fun for children of all abilities. Currently, we are in the public comment period of the CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act. A subsequent initial study, mitigated negative declaration, analyzed traffic, noise, lighting, biological, cultural, and other potential impacts this project may have. In all areas analyzed, there are less than significant impacts, with mitigation to no impacts. A separate project running parallel to the sports complex, Public Works will be working on installation of traffic signals on Westbrook and Brookstone North, and Westbrook and Brookstone South. Those are the that will become 2 signalized intersections, which will allow people to do left turn lanes into the parking areas, the parking lots. And after running vehicle use patterns, the traffic study indicated that these signals are not required the day we open, but we're choosing to work with, the city is choosing to put those in at the beginning so that we can have good traffic flows or ensure good traffic flows from the very beginning. Another mitigation measure is to conduct a bird nesting survey prior to starting the grading operations. That's a fairly typical mitigation measure that has been applied to many greenfield developments. The environmental document is currently out for public comment and will close on August 10th. The document is posted on the city's webpage, so you can easily look it up under Development Services, Planning, and then Environmental Documents and Public Notices. So tonight, again, we're here seeking the Commission's approval of the master plan pending environmental clearance and to forward it onto the City Council for formal approval. And with that, that concludes my presentation, and I stand ready to answer any questions you may have.
All right. So shall we start down there?
I noted that alongside the fields, there's no bleachers. It's all the standard soccer kind of public gathering. Bring your own lawn chair, bring your own shade cover, and is that how it's going to be, or are we going to put bleachers out there?
At this point, the shape of the complex is very, as you saw, long and narrow, and so at this point, we are not planning on bleachers and allowing parents to bring their own tents and chairs for setup.
Can the idea of bleachers be considered? Because when you're a parent like standing at a soccer tournament all day long in the heat and everything, there needs to be some place for some just adequate seating area for people to be comfortable all day and let the little kids run around. And I've played soccer my whole life, and I know those tournaments where probably torture for my parents to go when I was a kid. And then literally you could be there for 12 hours just standing. And then the restrooms, are they definitely just going to be porta potties? There's going to be nothing like where people can get changed, or stick on another layer of clothing under their jersey, and you're not going to do that in a porta potty. And
Correct.
I just think
the porta potty area is going to be, what's shown in the sketch is going to be a kid zone, and so that building that was in front of it is a permanent restroom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I got a couple of questions. And I apologize if you stated it, but I didn't hear it. But the type of turf that you're planning on putting in there was going to be artificial turf or natural grass?
Yeah, pardon me, I did not say that. So it is planned to be artificial turf.
Oh, okay. And then looking at the lineup of the fields, is there? It looks like there's a good amount of. I think you had mentioned fencing, but is there barriers or netting in between each field to prevent the ball from going in from each field while the game's going on?
Yeah, good question there as well. There is a netting and fencing combination for each of the fields.
Okay, a couple more questions here. Sorry. There looks like there's an area on the overall map. Looks like there's an area, field in between the water treatment plant and the soccer complex. Is that correct? Is that just going to remain like an open field, or is there other? Do you know what the development plans are for that?
The open field on, let's pull up just to make sure I know what you're talking about, slide.
Looks just like a rectangular.
What, this one, Tara?
Could we get slide 3 pulled back up on the
okay.
screen?
She's gone.
I think, okay, so I think what you're talking about, and maybe slide 2 is what you're talking about, the green. That is the entire soccer complex area. So if we go back one more slide, there you go. That's the one you're talking about.
To the right of the green soccer complex, looks like there's a grassy area and then the wastewater treatment plant. Do you know, I assume that's probably part of the wastewater treatment plant land, or is there development plans there?
There are, it's part of the development plans for the wastewater treatment plant. So we go right up to the property line of the wastewater treatment plant.
But it appears to be like just open field right now. And
Correct, yeah.
Or what it
future development for expansion.
Okay, my last thing is just a quick recommendation. If they are turf fields, specifically in the summer, those fields get hotter on the field than they are in other parts of the park. I've seen a couple other parks where they actually is like kind of a large sprinkler hose or something that just kind of cools the field down at halftime. I think that's a really neat idea. It's not something that you use to, obviously you don't need to water the turf, but just to cool it down, I think could be kind of a neat idea.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. We've been looking at different ways to keep really wash down the field. We have heard from a number of different resources that we've talked with that having the water cannons actually works opposite of what we feel would cool down the field. What it does is it creates more of a humidity, and so it's not as you're unable to play on it. We are looking at, again, I mentioned a misting system so that at least the players as well as the spectators can cool off, and then ways that we can water the field without creating that humidity, because if we start doing that, especially when it's hot, it's going to actually prevent people from playing on it. The other thing that we're looking at is the type of infill in the turf itself. There's different types of infill material. At Mahaney Park, if you've been there, that's a crushed rubber material, and if you've played there as well, it's pretty hot. There's new technology that will allow us to have a cooler temperature on the field, whether it's cork or crushed olive pits or crushed walnuts. Those are some of the new technology that's worked really well to keep the field a lot cooler.
Good. That's all I got. Thank you.
yeah, just you need lots of shade. It's only going to get hotter, so lots of shade. Yeah, I would kind of be against the bleachers only because it's more difficult to shade them if you're, and I think most families are used to bringing their pop-ups and chairs nowadays, but yeah, just try to cool you down as much as you can.
Definitely.
Yeah. And can you remind me, this is open to the public, it's rentable, how are these fields going to be used?
I'm going to actually pass that over to Jill.
So yes, they would be rentable to the public, to sports teams to utilize for practices, to large groups to utilize for tournaments. We have a couple of sports clubs that have already expressed interest in maybe being an anchor tenant, where they would have a long-term lease of X number of fields, and so they will totally be rented. It won't be a complex that's open and people can just come and jump on the fields 24/7. Tara mentioned that the complex will be fenced, but the inclusive playground and the parking lots will not. So if a family wants to come and utilize the inclusive playground when the soccer fields are closed, they will be able to do that. Having said that, the inclusive playground itself will be fenced in just for the safety of kids, but it won't be part of the complex fencing, if that makes sense.
Is there enough room the way it's all set up right now, assuming that like every single family is going to bring a pop-up tent, and because it's hot out there in the summer and it's hot all year, so I would think that like every single if you would assume that every single person is bringing a pop-up for their family, those things take a lot of room. So is there the proper amount of room for Team A on the left, Team B on the right, and a whole ton of pop-ups and chairs and things that people are lugging, the soccer bags, the balls, all the equipment and everything?
Yes, our consultant's been very diligent about that specific detail to make sure that there is sufficient room. And usually, and you've all played this, and there's a team tent. And so, not every family will bring a tent, but there will be a team tent. But there'll be also additional setup right next to it. As I mentioned, there's about 20 feet on the parent side, or the spectator side, I'll just say that. And that's just on the field itself. The main spine is even wider than that, where it has shade structures on it as well. So additional areas where people can get out of the sun, under some shade, and watch some of the games.
You already answered the question with regard to the field turf. Now, the question I have for striping, is it only going to be solely striped for soccer, or can it be striped for lacrosse? Okay.
Yeah,
because I want to make sure it's a multi-use type of a facility.
Definitely. What we're talking about is sewn-in lines for the soccer, but water-based paint for the others. We had one of our public workshops. There was definitely an interest from lacrosse, and you can absolutely play there.
It's a growing sport, so that's what I'm trying to think down the line. Now, there has been, and this was all analyzed under the West Plan EIR.
Correct.
Okay, so we're talking about a neg deck and mitigated neg deck?
Yeah, it's a subsequent mitigated negative declaration, and one of the reasons is it's moved locations, so we're just reconfirming.
And then the other commissioners had a lot of concerns about shade and heat. I know the landscape plan isn't done yet, but when we do, I'm envisioning how the softball complex is at Maidu. We have all those nice London plane trees around. Now, I realize that it creates a maintenance thing in the fall, you have to clean up the leaves, but maybe some plantings of these London plane trees that years down the line, probably after I'm pushing up daisies, that we can have mature trees that provide shade to, the spectators. But the example I just want to hold out is the soccer, not the soccer, but the softball area at Maidu, how that's now matured, and there's a lot of shade there for all the spectators. Mm-hmm. So just keep that in mind when we do the landscape plans.
Will do.
That's all I have.
All right.
And last question, and the concerns with it being so close to the water treatment plant, all of that's been surveyed and there's no health concerns?
Yeah, there are no health concerns with regards to that. It was actually part of the air quality was studied when the treatment plant went in. So there are no health issues there.
And what would happen on those few days where that smell that we've talked about in the past?
Yeah,
I know it only happens a couple days a year, but when it comes, it's intense.
It's very, yes, I would agree with you.
It's really close.
We talked with the EU, and so our hope is that they will understand our schedule for tournaments, and that when they do that once or twice a year, that it'd be during the middle of the week versus during a tournament.
So they're going to work with us for that. Wow, great.
Excellent. All right. Any other questions? If not, we will open it up for public comment. Is there anyone in the viewing audience wishing to comment on this item? Seeing none, we will close the comment period and open up this item for a vote by the commissioners. Do we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion.
Yeah.
Makes a motion to approve.
All right.
Second.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passed. Okay. Next item on the agenda is item number 7, Commissioner and Staff Reports. Are there any reports?
Not much to report. As you can see, there's lots going on in our department. So thank you very much for your input and your feedback on these really two important issues tonight. I do want to remind of the Sakamoto Park dedication on August 20th. That will be prior to the time that we meet again. And then just a reminder that Tara is here, as well as Jeff Nearson, our recreation manager, if you have any questions for staff.
All right.
Did somebody send out a notice on that park dedication? I hope I get another notice email or something like that, so I'm reminded.
We will make sure.
Kicked in the pants.
We will make sure
I
of
don't
that.
see it on my calendar.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing that one either.
Okay.
Yeah.
We will get that out to you.
You said it was August
20th.
20th.
All right. No,
I
okay.
just have one question. I just wanted to say you guys did a great job at the July 4th event. It was just me and Panchal, and we were, it was great. The parade was great. I know you're going to try to. I was told that we're going to try to get more participants for next year, so I just wanted to say thank you and give you a round of applause for then the kids thing. That was fantastic. The whole setup after at Royer Park, it was really crowded, really busy, but there might be some tweaks that could be done there just to get the lines a little shorter after. But great job on that.
Thank you.
All right. No other reports, which brings us to item 8, adjournment.
No, sorry.
Yes.
Not a report, just a question. So and this might be for Jeff, but some dads were asking me the other day if there's a 40 and over type basketball league that is that we have, and I wasn't aware of it off the top of my head, and I
don't think my knees can handle it.
No, just because the discussion was the leagues that they'd played in were a little young for them, and
We have different levels of leagues.
yeah.
From lots of experience to more novice players.
Yeah.
We do not have a 40 and over league.
Okay. Is that anything you've looked into?
We've had leagues like that before.
Okay.
Not very successful, very hard to get that, but we're in a different time, so it's something we can certainly consider.
Maybe if we drop the basket down to 8 feet, we'll have
Shoot, it could even be 35 or 30. Just
All right. Any others? No. If not, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
just